Shortly after 1 a.m. on June 24, 2021, the middle and east parts of the Champlain Towers South condominium in Surfside, Florida, collapsed. Only the west part of the tower remained standing. 98 lives were lost in this tragedy. The 136-unit condominium building stood 12 stories tall plus a penthouse, and it was built of steel-reinforced concrete. At ground level, a pool deck and a parking deck made up of concrete slabs were supported by columns over the basement of CTS. The building had stood on this stretch of the Atlantic coast since 1981. There was no obvious cause of the collapse, such as an explosion or a storm. Within days, the National Institute of Standards and Technology launched a National Construction Safety Team investigation to determine the technical cause of the collapse. I'm Judith Mitrani-Reiser, co-lead of the investigation.
And I'm Glenn Bell, co-lead of the investigation. In this presentation, we will provide a summary of our technical findings.
Our team of experts has completed the technical portion of its investigation. This includes the analysis of physical evidence and historical records, as well as extensive interviews. We conducted materials testing and geotechnical studies. We built and tested building components like those within CTS and ran many computer simulations of the failure. We examined 24 possible scenarios for where and how the failure started. Based on this extensive work, we have concluded that the failure most likely began in early June, about 3 weeks before the collapse, when 2 connections between garage columns and the pool deck slab failed. Once the first connection failed, other elements of the pool deck were left to carry their loads. But they were not strong enough to handle them due to problems that stemmed from the original design and construction of the building. When building structures are designed and built to required codes and standards, they have margins against failure, meaning they should be able to support much more load than they are expected to bear. In the case of Champlain Towers South, these margins against failure were too narrow from the start. NIST investigation revealed that the collapse of Champlain Towers South began with what are called punching shear failures. In this type of failure, the slab breaks around the column, giving the appearance that the column punched through it. It occurs when the load on the slab becomes great enough to cause it to bend and crack around the column, weakening the connection that is holding the slab in place. After the first 2 slab column connections failed in early and in mid-June, respectively, the slab that they supported did not fall immediately. It was held up by the pool deck and street-level parking deck slabs surrounding it. When the connections between the pool deck slab and these 2 columns in the garage below failed, it increased the loads on neighboring connections, eventually causing them to fail as well. The failure spread to other elements of the pool deck and street-level parking structure, eventually unseating the southern edge of the pool deck slab from a supporting wall. We believe this caused the slab to sag further and eventually break away from the face of the middle section of the tower, seen at the extreme right of this image. This left the slab resting completely on crushed cars and the garage floor below it. There's no way to know precisely which path these failures took from the initial 2 punching shear failures, but this scenario we have described here is consistent with principles of structural mechanics, eyewitness accounts, and other evidence. Small variations in the sequence could also be consistent with structural mechanics and evidence. Most importantly, when the pool deck broke away from the middle part of the tower on June 24, 2021, it damaged 2 connections. The damage weakened these joints, causing the failure to enter and to spread through the middle part of the tower. Once the failure began in the middle part of the tower, it caused what's called a progressive collapse in the tower. The collapse progressed through the middle part of the tower and then to the east part.
Low margins against failure existed from the time Champlain Towers South was built, primarily caused by 2 factors. First, severe and widespread deviations in the building's original structural design from the codes and standards of the day, but also some limitations in those codes and standards. And second, deviation in the building's construction from the design drawings. Loads added to the structure over its life further diminished the margins against failure. But what caused the collapse in 2021? We found no evidence of any specific initiating event. The final factor that brought the critically low margins of safety to the point of failure was most likely long-term degradation from corrosion. While we have determined the cause of the collapse, our work is not done. We continue to develop recommendations to improve the structural safety of buildings based on what we've learned. We will publish a report, as we have done for our previous investigations, which will include all of the technical analyses and our recommendations. We will then work to ensure that standards, codes, and practices are updated as needed. Throughout this investigation, we have kept top of mind those who were most directly impacted by the collapse of Champlain Towers South. We appreciate everyone who has helped with this work, including the survivors and the families of those who were lost. With their invaluable input, this effort will help make other buildings safer and help prevent tragedies like this from happening again.